Talk shoes.
Recorded live.
This service is provided in high definition by freeconferencecallhd.com. Please enter your access code followed by the pound. Access code accepted. This conference is being recorded.
Hello?
Hi, Gus.
Greetings, you two. Both of you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep,
Can you
we can
hear
go.
us?
Yes, I can hear both of you.
Muted.
I can hear both of you clearly. I was just cutting our sound really quick so that I can get the show started up. You said both of you can hear me clearly?
Yes.
Outstanding. I think this audio quality should work for the program. I need to get one thing taken care of, and then we'll be ready to go live.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you both for sharing a bit of your time with us. Really looking forward to it. I think it'll be constructive for folks to hear about the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much for contacting us.
For sure. Okay, almost there.
Before we are live, can we ask you something?
Give me 1 second. I'm going to mute one line, and yes, then you'll have... all righty.
Unmuted.
RacismDaily.com, your number one source for global news reports on race, racism, and overt actions of white supremacy. From Asia to the Americas, to Europe, to Australia, to Africa, racism is not a thing of the past. It is our current reality. Be informed. Be globally informed. You should be the first to know. RacismDaily.com, RacismDaily.com, RacismDaily.com. Is racism hurting you? On issues of race, are you unable to speak, think, and act with clarity and confidence? Are you tired of laughing when nothing is funny, smiling when you're not happy, agreeing when you really disagree? At counterracism.com, you can learn specific strategies and techniques to counter the behaviors of the people who practice racism in all areas of activity. Using words correctly, following counter-racist logic, even counter-racist science projects designed to reveal what racism is, how it works, and how to counter it. The open-source code writing format allows you to pick and choose from a variety of counter-racist suggestions so you can produce the code that works for you. Stop by counterracism.com today and help replace racism with justice.
That's counter-racism.com.
Do you need a one-stop shop for all of your multimedia needs? Triumphant Multimedia is a skilled team of professionals with a passion for great marketing and chic design. Our specialties include consulting, brand development, copywriting, and creative graphic design that's second to none. We also offer photography, photo retouching, videography, and video editing. At Triumphant Multimedia, our goal is to provide highly effective creative solutions built to suit any individual need or budget. Give us a call at 678-732-8067 or check us out online at trimultimedia.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is Debbie.
If you want to learn, dance questions, blogtalkradio.com/victim-of-racism. And for more information on racism, white supremacy, go to my blog, justdojustice.blogspot.com. My email address is justice.asap@yahoo.com. Replace white supremacy with justice, ASAP. You're just saying just buckets and buckets of work.
The Cows, Gus T Renegade, and Justice. And for another program, thank you all for tuning into the broadcast. This would be Saturday, May 14th, 2011. We were a couple minutes off schedule getting the program started. As I said repeatedly, I do not like morning programs. I'm not really a morning person. I'm not together as well as I generally am a little bit later in the day. But hopefully this will be a constructive investment of my time and your time being awake early, or if you're listening to the broadcast, to the archives. I think it'll be solid information to help your understanding of the global system of racism. This program, I don't even recall how I got their information. I remember finding the website for our two guests on today's program. They are working on a documentary film project. Really interesting work. The website is linked for everyone who is listening in at TalkShoe. The website is linked, and you can visit the webpage to pick up more information about what they're doing. The website is linked at whitecharity.de. The address again, www.whitecharity.de. Again, just click the title and you can go to their website. Really interesting project where they talk about how images with commercials and ads that are alleging to be about helping Black people, how these images carry a lot of racism embedded that a lot of people miss. A lot of people understand this, but a lot of people don't even see how this relates to racism. Let's see how I'll set it up. I'll tell you information about them, and then I'll give you the quote to set everything up. I think I'll do it that way. We have two guests. One of our guests, Caroline Philippe. She studied political science and science of education in Olenburg, Potsdam, and Berlin. After high school, she spent a year in Zambia on a Zambian-German youth exchange program. During her studies, she did internships in Mercerours, I might be mispronouncing that, please forgive me, Africa Department in Aachen, and a human rights NGO in Venezuela's Amazonas region. The focus during and after her studies have been globalization, migration, power relations, race, and racism. She is currently working in political education projects in Germany and Greece. Two guests today. Our other guest, Teemo, Kaiser, studied Islamic studies, anthropology, and Indian history in Berlin. Motivated through the Orientalism debate, he directed his view on the critical discussion about self and other, and attended a master program in post-colonial studies at Goldsmiths College in London. Numerous travels through Europe, the Middle East, and Asia, as well as his diverse voluntary work, allowed him to connect theory and experience. His aim is to open up academic debates about post-colonialism and critical whiteness to a larger circle of people. Both of our guests, they are joining us today from Berlin, Germany, global system of white supremacy, first time having guests on the program from Germany, and they seem to be very informed about racism, white supremacy. I think that'll come out as we get into the program. Extremely informed about racism as a global system. And in fact, when I was looking at their work, they were referencing some folks who have been guests on our program. It seems like they have been impacted by the work of Mr. Jan Nedervan Peterson. He was on our broadcast in July of 2010. He wrote the book White on Black. And in fact, I thought that their work seemed to be so much influenced by what he said in that book, and I too thought he had a lot of constructive things to say. I'm going to start with a quote from his book when he was on the program. This will probably be one of the few times where someone has been on our program, and as opposed to me quoting them, you have me sound clipping myself reading their work. Really interesting, but I think you'll get the flavor of his work from this quote. This is quote number 1 from Mr. Jan Nedervan Peterson, just reading from his book, White on Black. And I think this great way to set up the program for today with our two guests. Here's the quote really quick, short one, about 45 seconds. Listen closely, and then we will kick off with our guests.
Permeate society. They concern processes in which we all take. This is from page 223. Accordingly, stereotyping tends to be not merely a matter of domination, but above all, of humiliation. Different and subordinate groups are not merely described, they are debased, degraded. Perceptions are manipulated in order to enhance and magnify social distance. The rhetoric and the imagery of domination and humiliation permeate society. They concern processes in which we all take part as receivers and senders in the everyday rituals of impression management, insofar as taking part in society means taking part in some kind of status.
Status ranking, just to make sure that was clean. Status ranking, and I think they'll be able to speak to how that quote from White on Black relates to their work. I think I would just tell listeners to keep the phrase in mind. They were talking about humiliation, domination, and distance, using images to create humiliation, domination, and distance between non-white people, black people, and white people. Real key aspect, and I think their work will touch on that. Our guests for today's program, Caroline Philippe and Teemo, Kaiser. Are both of you with us?
Yes, we are.
Good morning in the States and good evening in Europe.
Outstanding. Great to hear from both of you. Thank you so much for sharing a bit of your time with us this, I guess for you all, this evening, for folks in the state, this morning, this afternoon. If you could take some time to tell folks a little bit about the work that you do, what you're doing with this documentary film, and anything you would like people to know about the two of you, that would be great. I guess we'll start with Miss Philippe.
Mm-hmm. Yes, maybe I should talk at first about what the concept of our movie was, of our documentary. This is what you were asking. We are focusing in our documentary on the advertisements of charity NGOs that are hanging around on the streets in Germany, and the images that they transport to the passers-by. We are talking about how black people are constructed in these images and how white people are constructed or displayed in these images, and what kind of history have these images. We are talking about what kind of influence has these images, and where they come from.
Maybe we can just give a little bit about the history of the project. We were both writing our MA thesis about topics that were relating to the actual project, and then in 2007 we decided to set up a documentary about the issue, and we started thinking about who we want to interview for this documentary, and we decided to first, of course, interview some of the representatives of the non-governmental organizations, of the NGOs, who actually use the ads and the images which are portrayed. But then, of course, we wanted to engage them in within the documentary, in a discussion with critics about the advertising, and we found some willing activists and academics to share their thoughts with us. And we, as we were both white, or as we are still both white, Caroline and me, we decided that it would be very important to mainly interview black people and non-white people in order to get more a different perspective into our work, which we as white people could not have. And we interviewed a couple of people, for example, academics such as Ada Kilomba or Peggy Pische or Aram Siai, and activists such as Christopher Ngos, for example, from Cameroon.
Mm-hmm. And maybe also important was at the beginning of our project that we were both working in political education, and we were writing our theses, and we thought, okay, this subject is so important because the images that we see every day, they are so violent, but actually when we only write our thesis, academic thesis about this, nobody will read them except our professors at university. And because of the impact of the power that these images have, we decided to make a documentary in order to share these views and the views of the people that we interviewed with the broader public.
As you probably have recognized, that 2007 is already some years ago, and unfortunately the movie is not yet finished. There were some technical odds, and as well there were personal issues. I had a daughter, Caroline was moving away to Greece, and so there was no possibility to work on the project continuously, but we are back on track, and hopefully till the end of the year the project will be ready and will be we will be able to broadcast it in Germany, and there will be also an English subtitle version.
That is outstanding. I'm really happy to hear that there's going to be an English subtitle version, because I would love to check the project out once it's complete. Before we continue, both of our guests, they are not, I don't think English is the first language for either of them. So if at any time you don't understand a question, or if we're speaking too fast, myself or anyone that calls in, just let us know, and we'll slow down or we'll repeat something. Just, please let us know if anything is not clear.
Thanks, that's so nice. But we'll try our best anyway.
For sure. You all are doing great thus far. I think I would get an F on any German exam, so you're doing light years better than myself. This program, the C.O.W.S, is an acronym for Context of White Supremacy. I have unfortunately concluded that we are in a global system of racism, white supremacy. I use those two terms, racism and white supremacy, as synonyms. I have the same definition for both terms. That definition is as follows: a global system of people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated to abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom they classify as not white. Do the both of you believe that such a system exists, and do you both think that definition is accurate?
Yes, I do believe that the system exists, and as far as I can speak from my own perspective, because, for example, I've never been to the U.S., and I mostly can speak for the German context, but of course, as I was reading and talking to people, I believe that in other places the system is very similar, and in Germany actually I think very few people would define racism with this definition, and as for example in my political educational work, I get a lot of resistance, and people don't really understand why a definition as such, like why people would come up with a definition like this.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but I think because in our educational work also we deal a lot with the structures of world trade, and I think even if we haven't been to the U.S., we can say that the whole the power structures in many different areas, for example in global trade, they are still very racialized structures. And the structures, especially at the subjects that we deal with, this whole charity work, I mean, it's a very racialized structure, because the people who give money to the charities, they are mostly in the global north, which is in Europe still defined. Europe is still defined white, and the receivers of the money, they are still defined as people of color or black people. So I think we can subscribe under this definition of racism.
And maybe one more thing to add is that what I understand, or is part of this system of white supremacy, is not only like political or economical structures, but a lot of the cultural structures which underlie our society, and the focus we have on advertisements of charitable organizations is only one very small focus, because it's actually one part of a puzzle which you could set together to, if you look at very different parts of society. So we could actually make more or less the same analysis, analyzing school books, analyzing movies, from children movies like Walt Disney to Hollywood movies, but also movies which are produced in Germany. For example, in Germany, there are lots of children games or children books as well, which play into the same idea of white supremacy without talking directly about it. It's very hidden. It's a very hidden norm which stays behind all these different parts of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we should give an example for this, because this maybe I can imagine. I have also never been to the U.S., to Northern America, but I think the constructions and the children's books as well are quite differently, I imagine, in the German context than in the U.S. American context, because the German society still imagines itself as a white society. And for example, we in the whole of Europe, we have a very famous children's book called Pippi Longstocking, and this book, in big parts, is very empowering for white children, because it's a girl living alone. She's very independent and everything. And this book has a huge influence on nearly every child in Western Europe, I would say. I don't know if it's common in the U.S. or not. But for example, this white little girl, which is living in Sweden, she has a father, which is a pirate. And this pirate father nearly never sees his daughter, but they have a very close relationship. And he's, for example, most of the time living in an island in the Pacific, I don't know. And he's the king, the white king of the black inhabitants of this island. And in this book, for example, it says that the father, this white king, says about the inhabitants of the island, the black inhabitants, they can't organize themselves, so they need a king to rule them. And this king in this book is white. And I think this is just one example of 1,000 examples that you grow up when you grow up in Europe. And this, of course, shapes your ideas of what it means being white and what it means being black.
Context of white supremacy. The only thing I would throw in there is I think, unfortunately, Pippi Longstockings and Disney and many stories like that are unfortunately popular worldwide, which just shows how big this problem is. They're very popular here, and stories just like that have the exact same theme. Non-white people are totally worthless, and if they do anything, it's because a white person was there to hold their hand and show them what to do. If they didn't have white people, they would be lost, helpless children. That same theme plays out, I would say probably 1 million times a day worldwide. That is unfortunately white supremacy. I told our listeners, you two are very informed. I was reading, the material on your website and some of the papers that you two have authored. You all are familiar with a lot of folks who've been guests on our program. Dr. Peggy McIntosh, Jan Nedervan Peterson, Noel Ignatiev, they've all been guests on our program, and you all cite their work. So I assume you all are very informed white people. So I am a black male. My program is designed for non-white people, so I hope this broadcast you all will be challenged. And I hope it'll be very constructive. I hope it'll be courteous and challenging, and you'll feel like you've really been pressed with some questions as we proceed. I read, Teemo, I read your report, White Charity, Whiteness, and Myth in German Charity. And this is available online. Anyone, if you're interested, you can go to their website, which is linked. You can go to their website, and you can just go to the downloads, and you can check this report out. But in that report, you talk about reflecting on your own whiteness. You both acknowledged you're white, and you said you coming to understand, that means that I, too, am racist. I just wanted to give my definition and see, if it matches with what you mean when you say that you are a racist. And just if you could share some more on that. My definition of a racist is a person who consciously and or unconsciously, directly and or indirectly mistreats someone because they are not white. That is my understanding of a racist. According to that definition, would you still be a racist, Teemo?
Yes, but the issue is that my understanding of racism differs from the understanding of, for example, in the German public. And what I have in mind is that, for me, racism is a system, it's a structure, and everybody is involved in the structure. White people are on the privileged part of the structure, and black people are, for example, on the unprivileged part, or the victims of the racist system. But there's no one in the whole structure who could be outside of the structure. So in Germany, normally, if you ask somebody, or if you tell somebody, hey, you're racist, then it's a very, very bad bad word, and people get very very angry about. This is not my understanding, because I think yes, I can be angry about that I'm racist, but at some part it was not my choice, because I'm part of a structure, and the only thing is that I can be more aware, but I will, because the part of the definition is that it's not only conscious but unconscious behavior, and I will not be never be completely aware of my unconscious behavior, and I will always be part in the system, and as I'm white, I will be part of it on the privileged side and on the racist side.
I think it's very interesting to talk about what the word mistreat means in your definition, because I think, of course, I would try to consciously not mistreat anybody, but I think when you grow up in a wide surrounding, you learn the stereotypes, and you can try to become more and more conscious about them. But I think it's very hard work to completely, or it's nearly, I think it's impossible to completely eliminate this stereotype. But it's important, and I think it's a lifelong process to become more and more conscious about these stereotypes. And I think the German definition of racism is very much connected to violence, to racist violence. And what we also want to establish in this definition is that to broaden the definition also on not active violence, but on also violence that is, for example, we also say that the pictures, the advertisement is kind of a violence and also mistreating other people. And I think in this definition we are always inside it.
Maybe one more thing from Germany. Last year there was a special rapporteur from the United Nations traveling for some weeks through Germany, discussing racism with lots of politicians and non-governmental organizations and activists. And at the end, he wrote a report saying that in Germany, racism is still defined in a very narrow way, meaning that some neo-Nazis go out on the street and hit black people. But he kind of gave he kind of was advising to Germany to broaden up their definition of racism, and to actually see it more as a structural thing, which in lots of countries in Europe and in the United States, it's yet already much more acknowledged than in Germany.
I do think you all have shared a lot of constructive information, particularly to be a white person who admits to being a racist. Is that accurate for you as well, Caroline? You, a white person, also are admitting to being a racist?
Yes, that's what I said before. I think when you grow up in Europe, you grow up with all the stereotypes, and I think it's very difficult to, or it's impossible to step out of the system. I think not being a racist is kind of, or having racialized views is kind of the normality.
For white people.
For white people.
And maybe one thing more to add is that it's not only about stereotypes, but it's a lot about privilege. And that even I'm very much aware of my white position. I still, if I walk around in the streets, if I get controlled in the train, if I want to rent an apartment, if I want to get a job, all these things, people see me as white, and I gain through my white privileges, and I will not be able to just leave them behind and say, okay, now I'm not part of the system anymore. And even though this is not conscious and I'm not willingly mistreating others, but through a white person who gives me, or like a landlord giving me a contract to a flat and not giving it to black people because he doesn't want to have black people in his house, I'm very much part of the system.
I just want to point this out for listeners, and this is why I was so excited about being able to talk to white people in different parts of the world, because I just think it'll be very constructive to note, to make a comparison and contrast. That term privilege is one of the refined ways racist man and racist woman practice racism, in my opinion, because it's not the most accurate way. It makes racism sound like a very passive thing. And I know, Teemo, you have a quote in that same report, White Charity, Whiteness and Myth in German Charity, where you talk about how white people, when they get in discussions on racism, they'll talk about slavery and, yeah, we got, this whole legacy of mistreating black people and non-white people, but they will shy away from talking about how that system of racism, white supremacy, is maintained, achieved, refined. They will stay away from talking about that, and I think one of the major ways is to talk about privilege. I think it would be correct, most accurate, to say that you two, Teemo, Caroline, and any other white person in the universe, as long as the system of white supremacy exists, you all will be educated on how to function as racist man and racist woman. And what that means as white people who support, participate in practicing white supremacy directly, indirectly, consciously, unconsciously, a myriad of ways. Active, even though you might not be thinking about it, you might not be going out calling people names and what have you and in a Nazi organization, but you as white people actively participate in a myriad of ways in upholding that system of worldwide abuse and terrorism of non-white people. If that's true, I was going to pitch my next question, unless you think I said anything incorrect. Is it okay for me to proceed to my next question?
To correct, but maybe I can add one more idea about the idea of privilege, is that for white people, like the major issue is that they don't see privilege as privilege, or we don't see privilege as privilege, but rather we see it as norm, as normal. And this is the issue which is very, very difficult to acknowledge by you, like at yourself, but also as we are working in education, it's very difficult to actually teach this to other white people that they see.
Okay, hold on, hang on 1 second. My program is really designed with non-white people in mind, and I'll even share the why on this one, so it doesn't seem like I'm not interested in hearing that, because I'm not interested in hearing about how difficult it is to inform white people. I have concluded that white people are way more informed. You all have read books from white people all over the world on racism, white supremacy. You all have traveled to different areas of the world just to study about racism. You're constructing a film. You all, in my opinion, are just further evidence of what I'm saying. It's non-white people who do not understand what racism is and how it works. And that whole privilege, like I said from the beginning, that term works for the system of white supremacy. It's not being as accurate about what's going on as we could be. So I just want to, as I said, I think I was correct in what I said, and I said that word privilege, that's helping out the white team, so stay away from that word white privilege. The question that I wanted to ask, and it goes right to this, you also said in your report, same report, I'll give the title again, White Charity, Whiteness and Myth in German Charity. You said, what's next? What are we going to do next? We acknowledge we've got racism. These ads are filled with it. A next step, according to the critical pedagogues of whiteness, would be a program to educate white decision makers as well as the white public about the outcome of such a study. Through a rational line of argumentation, white people might acknowledge their position and start rethinking their actions, thoughts, and involvements. This is on page 32. And that really stood out to me. It was one of the first questions that I wanted to get to because I have concluded that white people are not going to voluntarily stop practicing white supremacy worldwide. They gain a lot. You all talked about privilege. You all get a lot of benefits from the system of white supremacy. I've concluded that white people are not going to change their actions, thoughts, and involvements. I'm just curious, what is the purpose? What is the ultimate objective of this project? How is this project supposed to end the system of white supremacy?
I think this is a very interesting question, and I think it's a very, very difficult project to challenge white supremacy. And I think I'm not sure if it's going to be changed one day, but I think for me personally, this is not a reason not to try. I mean, in general, I think when a system produces so much injustice, you have to go on trying to change it, no matter what the possibilities of a positive outcome is.
My idea to the question would be that we are addressing directly the people who actually are involved in these advertising. So we are the film will be very much for these persons producing these advertisings, and my hope is still that it will help for them to reflect their own work, and that they stop at least some of them their images, their violent portrayal of black people, and I think this will already have an impact if they stop or if they change their images because the images actually have an impact on the people living together in Germany, and
Yes, and I think, for example, I think it's very difficult to change the structures of this charity organization. But I think even if they only change their advertisement policy, their picture policy, and then black people who walk on the street are not every day confronted with these violent pictures, even this is an achievement, although they don't change the structures behind. What, of course, an aim of our work is to change the structures behind these images and the ideas that produce these images. But even if they only change the images, this, for me, it would be some steps.
But it's not only about black people seeing it, but it's a lot about white people viewing the images every day. And I think if they stop portraying these images, which have the idea of white supremacy behind, and just to give some numbers, in Germany, lots of the times of the year when there's not so many companies giving ads on billboards, like 30 to 40% of all billboards are full of advertisements of charity organizations. So it's really a big impact, which every day in German city dwellers watch and go through.
Okay. I'm not really sure. It seems like you all are acknowledging that it's going to be quite difficult to change white people's behaviors. I think Jan Netter von Peterson, again, he wrote White on Black. I think he touched on how these images are an integral aspect to maintaining the system of white supremacy. So I thought that was important, and I, again, want to get that out for listeners. I have seen no evidence, and in fact, I've asked white people repeatedly who've come on my program, and every white person that I have asked has said that they don't see any evidence that white people are going to change their behavior with regards to discontinuing the practice of racism. So, yeah, I would say for anyone, do not hold your breath on white people changing their conduct towards non-white people. I believe my co-host, Justice, is also with us. If you have a question or questions you would like to ask Teemo and Caroline, your line is open. Please go right ahead.
In your study, in your study of charity, or in your study of charity organizations, please share some specific ways you see white people using missionaries and religion against black people.
Could you repeat the question because the sound quality was quite bad?
In your study of charity organizations, please share some specific ways you see white people using missionaries and religion against black people.
You were focusing on missionary and religion, am I right?
Yes.
Yes, how missionary and religion is used against people.
Against black people.
Against black
people. One aspect which comes into my mind is that a big part of the German non-governmental organizations are from a Christian or missionary fraction. So lots of these NGOs actually have a history of mission and of which is very, very strongly connected to colonialism, and lots of these histories, lots of their own histories, is not reflected and is strongly it strongly affects their work today. What I have in mind is that, or what is part of our analysis is that lots of the organizations which have a colonial past use the same stereotypes which were there in colonial times towards black people, and at the same time use the same idea of a white self-image which was there in colonial times, and some of them change a little bit, but most of the images are still very similar. I can give a few examples. That, for example, the idea of how black people are portrayed is very much defined through deficiencies. That black people are poor, they're uneducated, ill, incapable, needy, they're without technology, they're passive, they can't talk for themselves. Another thing is that they're portrayed very close to nature, and that their culture is nature, that they're mostly naked. They're portrayed as children, which refers to the idea that Africa, for example, is the continent of children, as Hegel, for example, was saying. And this, at the same time, gives, if you believe in a way of construction, a white self-image which sees itself as a modern, developed, individual, active, rational, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think the religion, the religious part in this whole development work, when you want to call it development work, also the topic that we use is in Germany, which is called development work. It comes out of the history of calling us developed and calling, for example, Africa and Latin America underdeveloped. It's like we, most of the organizations, although many of them come from a Christian background, they take a distance from being missionaries in a traditional religious sense, but instead other Western values or so-called Western values are trying to be implemented in the project. And it's very interesting, for example, to look at the example of participation. If you want to, in this whole development cooperation thing, if you want to make a project in a Zambian village, as a Zambian community, for example, you have to implement for example, participation of everybody in the community has to be part of the project, because otherwise the German institution doesn't give money, because democracy, for example, has to be exported, the Western way of democracy has to be exported in other parts of the world. But the thing is that this participation stops at the local level. For example, the German NGO wants, in a missionary way, to export the values, so the Zambian village has to be, the project has to be participatory, but on the other hand, the participation doesn't come back to Europe. For example, then the Zambian community can't decide within the German organization how the money is distributed. Was I clear? Was I clear? Justice?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Why is white supremacy still in existence right now?
Why is white charity still in
white supremacy?
Oh.
Because the white people gain from it, and if somebody's in power, why they should change it? It's a question they would ask themselves, or really ask themselves ourselves.
And I mean, how is it possible that it still exists? You could ask, because the world is dominated by a small elite. But the thing is that this elite has so much power to further re-establish this supremacy in so many ways, in a military way, in an economic way, in a cultural way, that it's a huge work to try and change the system.
I believe in the concept of hegemony. I don't know how you pronounce it in English. And in the idea of cultural hegemony, that there's there are concepts which, like in this case, the white supremacy, which give people a certain place in society. It makes people believe that the place in society which they should take is a natural, like a normal place, and that they shouldn't be angry about the place because this is just the way it should be.
I just noticed that I fell myself again in the stereotyping way, because I talked about the German organization and the Zambian village, the African village, and not the African town. So coming back to your first question, okay, are we still defining ourselves as racist? So I can confirm it now, that these stereotypes are so deep inside that they always come out and come out again.
Caroline just refers to one thing we recognize is that, and we've seen more than 200 of the billboard advertisings, and there's only one picture portraying a town in in outside Europe, and like all the others and all the other pictures, black people are portrayed in nature or on the countryside, seeing that like we in Europe or white people have culture and black people are part of nature. This is one of the power structures which we analyze in the material.
Justice, I just wanted to point something out. I believe our guests might be consciously practicing racism. Maybe it's unconscious. I just wanted to point it out really quick, and then you can keep rolling with your questions. The first thing, I really want non-white people, if you're listening, pay close attention. Now, our guests, they are joining us live from Berlin. As I said, I don't think English is the first language for either of our guests. They can correct me if that is not true. Now, Teemo, you heard him use the term hegemonic. Now, I just want non-white people, moment of truth. Now, how many of you know what the word hegemonic means and think you could use it correctly in a sentence right now without having to go look it up or anything? I don't think English is Teemo Kaiser. I don't think English is his first language. I suspect it was German. I could be wrong. Just think about that in terms of skill with language. I think I said that repeatedly. Second, and he was totally correct. I totally agree with what he said. White supremacy does create a system where victims just think it's natural to be mistreated and to be under the domination, under the heel of white people anywhere in the world. That is exactly what white supremacy does. And images is a big way that this process plays out. The second thing I wanted to point out, racist man and racist woman, they're so skilled with words, they can use words to create distance. And I think that's been demonstrated repeatedly. That term privilege, it creates distance from their own racist behavior. Another way, they keep Teemo and Caroline, they continue to reference white people, but they're not saying we. They are not only white, they are racist. It should be we. Racism is still here because we are still practicing racism. Not racism is still here because they, white people, are still doing that. I mean, that is totally incorrect, and I believe it could be a conscious act of racism. Just creating that distance, that space between, Caroline, when she referenced, she said those stereotypes always come up. That's not the most accurate way. The most correct way to describe what's happening is that invariably white people who have been conditioned to function as racist white supremacists worldwide, invariably white people are going to function as racist white supremacists at some point. Invariably. If stereotypes are popping out, that's what it means. A white person consciously or unconsciously is practicing racism, white supremacy. That's the most accurate way of describing what's happening. And I think real important display of white supremacy just with the way words are being used. That's all. Thank you.
You both said you are racist. How do you function around I'm going to read this a little bit slower. Sorry about that. You both said you are racist. How do you function around non-white people everywhere you go?
This is a very difficult question. But I think most of the times when I'm in non-white surroundings, I try to think of a verse, and I don't remember who said it. If you want to work together with me, a black person said it, I think it was from a U.S. American woman. When you want to work together with me, she said, you can never forget that I'm a black woman. And if you want to work together with me, you have to forget that I'm a black woman. So I think this is what I'm always trying to be conscious of, to not, of course, not define a black person only as a black person, but as the individual which is standing before me, but also to be conscious of some things which are defining our relationships because of me being white and the other person being black.
And maybe this fits into this slogan, all different, all equal. And I think it's very difficult to actually describe how this comes in, like, into my behavior. But the idea would be to acknowledge that we are equal, so we have the same rights, but to also acknowledge that we are different, and to acknowledge that our position and our
preconditions.
Our preconditions are very different, and
And our status in the hierarchy is very different, and our possibility to use power is very different. Yeah.
But I'm thinking in practice, like in practice, in my daily life, it plays a very different role, depending on the people surrounding me. If I work with a black league in a educational setting, yes, it plays very much a role, but it plays less a role than if I, for example, work in a refugee camp, and their behavior, which is paternalistic, for example, it's much more easier because there are other structures coming along beside the power structures between blacks and whites. Does this fit into your question, Justice?
Yeah, you answered it. How do white people keep information from non-white people?
How do white people receive information from non-white people?
No, I think you said keep, Justice, didn't you?
Sorry, the sound quality is quite bad. Maybe you can repeat the question?
How do white people keep information from non-white people?
Keep information, to keep back information. To keep back information, I think we have trouble understanding the question. Could you be more specific, or do you want it to be so general, the question?
Any information that can help non-white people.
Do I understand the question right? If to keep information secret, like in order not to share information with black people?
The question, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because it's just a problem of translation for us. But I believe that we as white people often don't really realize in what structures or what positions we profit, and this is why, for example, in daily life, there are sometimes situations where things are normal for me, and I have not recognized it for myself, and I have not learned to share about it. But besides like daily life, our project of the documentary actually indeed is about sharing structures or sharing mechanisms of white supremacy within the images to both black and white people. And our experience in Germany is that black people are rather much better informed about the mechanisms of power, of racism, than white people are. So, and I don't want to be at the same time the white guy knowing everything better and telling black people how racism functions. This is not at all the idea. It's rather the opposite, that everything I learned about racism, I learned from black people, and in order to broaden my own horizon and to get aware, I was having a lot of lectures, conversations, and reading a lot of books, mostly from black people and people of color.
But can I ask again, the question was how we keep information about the upholding, about how we uphold white supremacy from black people. Information about this white supremacy. Okay, no, I understand. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
I think, yes. I think there, I can only go with Teemo, and I think you understood the question much before me. And I think the important thing is to make racism and racist structures conscious, so the mechanisms can be shared. Because, for example, now what you told us with your questions, Gus, and also Justice, you told us what words we use and what you think about them, for example, and that made us rethink again, and that made us conscious again about the stereotypes that we use. And this is a very helpful process, and we have to also do this in our work, that we make some things conscious in order to be conscious about the information. Actually, that doesn't mean then that all of us, the white people, will give away the information, because we want to uphold this white supremacy because we have privileges from it. But at least it's the first step is to become conscious about it, that we have some information.
How do they seem informed as the black people you talk to or come across in Germany? How do they seem informed as the racists who practice racism, white supremacy?
Could you repeat the question again, please?
The black people you talk to or come across in Germany, how do they seem informed as the racists who practice racism, white supremacy?
How do they seem informed?
How do they seem informed about us as white people? Is the question?
I'm sorry?
Is the question how black people seem informed about us as white people? Or how do they get into? Or what is the question?
How do they seem informed as the racists who practice racism, white supremacy more?
I'm sorry, I really don't understand. We don't understand the question. How do black people are informed about us as the makers of the documentary being racist? We really don't understand the question. Maybe you can put it in simpler words for us, or put it into 3 questions instead of 1, so it's easier for us to understand.
I'll repeat the question. How do they seem more informed about the racist white supremacists more than the white people? Oh, okay. So the question is, how do they seem more informed about racism, white supremacy, more than the white people who Okay. Well, forget about that question.
Justice, do you want me to try to see if I can rephrase it for you?
Please.
Okay. Caroline and Philippe, Teemo. Sorry, Caroline and Teemo. I think you all said that black people, you got your information about racism, white supremacy from black people. That black people are more, they understand racism better than white people. They know more about it than white people. I think Justice is asking, how did you conclude that black people have more information about racism than white people? I think that's what she's asking.
Okay. I think if you every day are, as a black person in Germany, every day you encounter racism, and I think so you have a very different perspective on racism, and you can analyze racism from a totally different perspective, because it's not you're not the norm, for example. And I think people in Germany is still constructed as a white country. We said this in the beginning. So the normality is white, and it's always, I think, difficult for people who come from the normality to see themselves as a specific person and to describe their own culture, for example, because this is the norm for them. So people who doesn't somehow fit to the concept of the norm, for them they see it more clearly. It's easier for them to describe this whole German racist culture, because for them it's not the norm.
I would add that that's what I've read from authors like Bell Hooks or others who write about that there's a black archive, which is like a black archive of knowledge of how power and how racism was working through the last centuries and is still working now. And there's also a notion of of resistance, and I think this archive, there's also a white archive of knowledge, but it works in a very different way. The white archive functions, in my opinion, like this: that first, white people, or we as white people, see ourselves as superior, but also as the norm, and we think that our ideas and our system should be universal. At the same time, whiteness is not marked like if we, for example, think about the charity advertising, black people are marked and are like related to, for example, poverty, to passiveness, etc. But at the same time, wealth is not related to whiteness. So there's a structure of non-marking. At the same time, there's no focus on privileges, and white people, or we as white people, see ourselves rather as individual. And this is a whole process which is part of the white archive. But lots of these processes are invisible and not active, available. However, on the that's how I understand in the Black archive, there's a lot about the knowledge about how these mechanisms are functioning because of experiences on everyday level, but also on historical and structural experiences about how the world is functioning.
What do black people say or do to show they understand racism, white supremacy, more than the racists?
Why do black people say that they understand it more than than we do? Is the question?
What do black people say or do to show they understand racism, white supremacy more than the racists? That's my question.
I think that's how me personally I learned about. It's part of my learning process that for lots of black people I encountered, for example, during my studies, lots of the analysis of power were very active or very aware for them, and at the same time we as white students in a Berlin college class, there was no knowledge at all about how racism functions, and so we profited a lot from the experiences and ideas and the knowledge, like the knowledge in first point, and at the same time, for example, I remember classes from Rada Quilomba at the universities where there were still parts of the classes which were divided into, or which were only for black people, in order to not have the situation where white people learn on the cost of the other, but there's also a specific space for black people to share and learn from each other without that white people are sitting next to them.
Thanks. Back to you, Gus.
Oh, wow. Well, what I will say, I don't want to spend any more time on that question, but I want listeners, I don't know, it might have been, lost in translation. I think that's what they say. Justice's question was, what do black people do to demonstrate that they have a greater understanding of racism than white people? And the response was that black people share information and share this information with white people so that white people, racists, profit from black people's understanding of racism. Now, if that's clean, then wow, double whammy. I really have to shake my head. If that is what black people, non-white people do to demonstrate that they are informed about racism, they share that knowledge with racists and allow racists to profit from their understanding of white supremacy. Woof, we have a long way to go. My question, I wanted to go back to Jan Nedervan Peterson. Again, he was on the program July 2010. He was on the program. He authored the book White on Black, and he has a really interesting quote. One thing I do want to point out, though, because it's related to the question that was just asked, I do not agree. I do not believe that black people, non-white people, are more informed about racism. I think that is totally incorrect. In fact, I believe that our guests could be consciously practicing racism by saying something that is just not true. I want you all to keep in mind these white people have admitted to being racist, and they have traveled to different areas of the world to study racism. I believe Philippe, she has gone to countries, or at least one country on the continent of Africa. I mean, really refined racist, in my opinion. What I want you to think about, the example I want to use to just drive the point home, and then I'll ask my question because it's very much related, slavery. We have had white people on this program who have made video of themselves going through the slave records of their great-great-grandfathers and great-great-grandmothers with gloves on to keep these records, to preserve them. But I mean, they've got sales records and all kinds of information about how racism, white supremacy was practiced circa 18th century. For the black people, the victims, they don't even have a name sometimes for a relative in that period. That right there, not only is that a sad illustration of what domination looks like, I hope that makes the point about who has more information about the practice of racism, white supremacy, what it is, how it works. I strongly assert white people know what they're doing. If you want to learn about racism, you ask the people who are doing it. White people are way more informed about this topic. I don't care if it's bell hooks. I don't care who it is. As long as that non-white person is still a victim of racism, white supremacy, they do not know nearly enough about racism. Not nearly enough. My question, Jan Nedervan Peterson, again, he was on the program July 2010. He had a really interesting quote. I want to play it, and then I want to ask because I think it goes to the heart of your work. Jan Nedervan Peterson, this is a quick one, like 40 seconds.
Jan Nedervan Peterson, his book, White on Black, Images of Africa and Blacks in Western Popular Culture. On page 95 of your book, it says, exoticism is a luxury of the victors, and one of victory's psychological comforts. The other, meaning non-white people, is not merely to be exploited, but also to be enjoyed. Enjoyment being a finer form of exploitation.
Hello? Gus, sorry. Sorry, Gus, we can't hear you at the moment. The volume has gone down. I hope you hear me. Maybe we try to call again. I need. Yes.
I don't know if you can hear us, but we can't hear you anymore.
No, back me. Hello?
Can I be heard? Can I?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Glad I didn't say very much. Did you all hear me just reading that brief clip from Mr. Peterson's book, White on Black?
Yes.
Okay.
We heard we are just trying to find it in the book because we heard half of it, so we are trying to find it in the book.
Oh, okay. I can give you. Oh, do you have it, or I can play it again, and hopefully there won't be any issues.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you have it?
We just couldn't hear what you were saying after the quote.
Oh, okay. What I said after the quote was that I believe that quote directly relates to your work, because these advertisements, I think a key part or a key aspect of these advertisements is that they provide that psychological comfort that he was talking about, seeing black people pitiful, in poverty, desperate, begging, in need of white help. I think that is a part of the psychological comfort and enjoyment that he was talking about, and I just wanted to get you all's perspective on that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is very interesting because, for example, we look at some of the pictures of the advertisement. Also white people are displayed in some pictures. But the thing is that they are displayed in a totally different way, and they are displayed in a way that you want to identify with them, because they construct an identity of a white person, of helping the other, of giving away some of the wealth that he or she has as a white person, giving away some of it, caring for the other. They construct an identity that you as a white person is enjoying. That is can you see the photo? Yes, to construct an image of whiteness that is you construct an image of a white person, of a whiteness that is that I don't know the English word, but that you would like to have as well, because it's the image of the good of the world which is being portrayed when you see white people on this advertisement. So it is an enjoyable perspective that is, or an enjoyable character that is constructed there of whiteness on this advertisement.
If you go back, I'm coming into the into this notion of exoticism, and that if you go back in the history of the construction, there was always a division between the black person as constructed through the deficiency, but also at the same time there was the idea of the noble savage, and so this was kind of the first idea of an exotic other, and in the Enlightenment in Europe, to be rational was very important, and at the same time, people kind of wished to be the same, like the noble savage, and they kind of positioned the other in a way which relates to their own wishes, and this is how we as white people do it today as well. And racism is not only functioning today through bad words, or like it doesn't only work through inferiority, through the notion of inferiority, but also through the notion of we as white people project our dreams and wishes into the exotic other in this case. So it has a psychological function, and in our work we kind of recognize that I think there's at one point the enjoyment of the other as poor, but there's also the enjoyment of very beautiful images of the other, which is coming more and more in recent years into these ads. So you see, for example, African people with very beautiful, colorful, traditional clothing, which are put in scene in order to kind of show another image. And in our interview, for example, the one with C.O.W.S is one of our interview partners of the non-governmental organizations. They said, listen, our pictures have changed. We don't show any more people who have starving or who have AIDS or whatever. But now we show happy people who are laughing and smiling, and at the same time they don't understand that it's just the other side of the medal. Racism in our view functions not only through inferiority but also through the context of exotism.
I'm going to check to see if folks have questions that called in. I have two quick questions, and then I will hit the phone lines. I'll give out the number. If you are interested in calling in, the number 760-569-7676, and the code is 564-943#. The number one more time, 760-569-7676, and the code is 564-943. Skype is up as well. You can Skype in. I'll give that out in a couple minutes. You all, wow, really, like I said, I think very constructive to hear from white people in different parts of the world. Comparison, contrast. Think of, Tim Wise, Peggy McIntosh. She's been on the program. Timothy Wise, admitted white supremacist. Compare and contrast that. Now you're hearing white people from a different part of the world. You all on the website, whitecharity.de, you all wrote that we see racism as a mainstream phenomenon of the white German society. I see racism, white supremacy, as the dominant force worldwide, but I was hoping you all could elaborate on what you meant when you said we see racism as a mainstream phenomenon of the white German society, and I guess how these ads play a role in that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think in Germany we have a very a special case of our definition of the nation. For example, you always compare the German nationalism to French nationalism in saying that French nationalism, I think as well as US American nationalism, is more a constitutional nationalism. That is, okay, we have the Constitution and everybody who believes in the Constitution is a US American or is a French person. And in Germany we have a history of the more, I don't know now the English word, but it's more, the Germans, we construct ourselves as a natural nation of a people that have a history of 1,000 years and so on. I mean, the history is changed in order to fit into this myth, and so it's a myth of Germans being yes, an all interrelated race. And I mean, we have the history of the National Socialism, for example, where the Germans were constructed as white, blonde, blue-eyed, and so on. So I think in Germany it's a different phenomenon than in other parts of the world, because we have this history of the Shoah, of the Holocaust. And I think although this is 60 years ago, it's still a very, very strong idea in Germany that who is German or who is accepted as a German somehow has to be white. There are many examples of black German people, of people with a Turkish background, with a German passport. They are not accepted as German people, although they have the passport. I mean, they are still always defined as the Turkish, although being here for 2 generations, having the German passport. It's not the concept of nationality in Germany is a whole different issue than from the concept of nationality in the U.S., for example.
Interestingly, if we connect it to our documentary work, we could see that if there's very, very few images of white people only, but if there are white people portrayed, it's very clear that they are German. So, for example, they're celebrities, or they're news speakers, so everybody knows them, or if there's unknown white people portrayed, there's a name given, and so everybody knows kind of that they're part of a German context. But there's not at all like if black people or people of color are portrayed on the billboards, it's very clear that the billboards are not talking about Germany, but they're talking about a place somewhere else. And one of our interview persons, Peggy Pischer, she said, for example, that actually the color of the skin gives an idea of the location of the person. So there's a black child on an advertising portrait, and there's written, please send future. If there would be a white kid on the ad, there would be the question, okay, where should I send the future to? Because the kid could be in Bavaria, so there should have been a slogan next to it, help for Slovenia or for Bulgaria or whatever, in order not to have the idea that there should be sent future to a white German kid. But this is not the case. So the black kid will not represent Germany, but it is clear for the people who produce the ad, and also for us as consumers, that the ad is actually located somewhere else, even if you don't see anything from the background. If you only just see the black kid, that the color of the skin actually gives an idea of belonging to Germany or not.
Mhm.
Last question, then I will hit the phone lines. For folks, if you want to use your Skype, get ready. You can make a Skype call to free conference call HD.7676, and the code is 564943#. And I gave you a number out. You can dial in as well with the phone. Last question I'll ask. On the website, you all talk about gazing upon your own whiteness. And I interpret that to mean being a white person and being aware, oh, I'm white and I'm racist, and thinking about what that means. What was reflected when you became aware of your racist behavior?
What characteristics were reflected, you mean? Yeah.
Just if you can elaborate more, what did you think about? What was revealed? What did you see in yourself when you began to understand, yes, I am a racist, and what that means?
I think I, as a white boy, I was trained from my parents to see things which I have achieved as personal achievements. So I was congratulated if I got a good mark. I was told that I can achieve everything I want to achieve because I have the strength and the quality, etc., and the qualification to achieve this. And I think this is one of the issues which was revealed to me, that it's actually not the case that if I achieved something, that it's only because, or it's mostly because I'm a good person and I have these qualities, but it has a lot to do with my social and political position in society, and that actually being male or being white is having a big impact on my curriculum and on a curriculum vitae, like how I was going through different stages of my life, and if I got a job, or if people listen to me, etc. And I think this is one of the major points. Looking back, that I integrated other aspects very much in myself, in the process how I see myself, that it's actually mostly because I'm a male, white, middle class guy with a high university
with a university degree.
With a university degree, that I actually am able to do things which I'm doing, and that people are listening to me, for example, on these radios.
I don't have audio. Oh, I think Teemo. I think we lost our guest. That's so interesting. He was just saying but worried about someone doing something to him. That's so funny. I hope I didn't. I think I'm still rolling. I don't think it was me that got cut out. Yes, it was just Teemo. Okay, I'm still on. I will, as soon as he's dialing in. I will get him back on the line with us right now. Get them back on the line with us right now. Okay, we got you guys.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, when was the line cut?
Teemo was giving his response. I'm not sure if he was finished or... Oh, okay. Were you speaking at all, Caroline?
I wanted to say as well that this realization come again and again, that this realization of, okay, I'm a white person and this is defining who I am. This is a realization that came, for example, very late, also in my studies of racism. And I think this is very interesting, because also when you study racism in German university, you mostly study what violence racism does to others, for example, but you don't realize, or I didn't realize, that how this is privileging me, and this is a process which goes on, and it's always very difficult to realize how much I am structured, how my personality is structured, how not even only my life is structured, and the privileges I have in my life and the structures of my life, because of this, of being a white person, but also some characteristic issues of my character, the way I talk in meetings, for example, is also defined by my whiteness, and this is always a very difficult thing again and again to realize and to acknowledge as well. Was this an answer to your question? Or?
I think it's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, that's fine. Sufficient answer. I will check the phone lines, and I'll give out the address again, folks. If you want to check out the site, it is www.whitecharity.de. And I have a request as well before I go to the phone lines. As a victim of racism, white supremacy, it would be very helpful if I could study more about white supremacy. I would like to make a request for a copy of the film with the subtitles when it's complete. It would be a great exercise in studying racism for me, and I would write a film review. I can put it up on the site for our program and my blog so that more people would know about it. Is that possible, to get a copy of the film with subtitles, English subtitles?
Yes, of course. I think one interview that we did with Grada Quilomba, a psychoanalyst who's a black psychoanalysis in the Humboldt University in Berlin, it is in English, the interview. So I think it's not as soon as we publish it, but in a very short time after we publish it, we will make the English subtitles.
Outstanding. So is that a yes? I can get a copy?
Yes,
of course.
Outstanding. Thank you. And I'll when I get it, I'll share with listeners. I'll report, give you my feedback. I'll write a review so you all can see, what I thought about it. The folks who dialed in over at TalkShoe, I'll check with you first, and then I'll go to Free HD. The person who dialed in from California and Lady B. Moore, do either of you two have questions for our guests?
Oh, no, I'm just listening, Gus, sorry.
No worries. Person who dialed in from California, did you have a question?
No, I'm also listening and trying to catch up. So, no, not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for listening in. Person who dialed in from Texas and Non-Mighty Wick, did either of you two have questions?
No, I'm just listening, sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you all for listening in. Non-Mighty Wick, did you have any questions? He's just listening. Minnie B, did you have any questions?
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. Can I be heard? Hello, can I be heard?
Hi.
Oh, yes. Non-Mighty Wick, yes, you can be heard.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I had audio difficulties here. I just wanted to know, thanks for coming on, folks from Germany, racists from Germany. I was curious, have y'all ever compensated, particularly monetarily, I guess, black people that y'all have profited so much from in y'all learning and studies of racism and white supremacy? Have y'all compensated them, with money?
If we have compensated them with money.
I would, not generally, but I was taking some workshops and courses of black trainers doing white awareness training, and this is what they do for a living, and this is a way I was paying money in order to join these courses, but I was never to friends or other students. I was never giving them money.
But I don't know about the concept of giving money. I would be interested in how could you redefine the question, or could you elaborate on the question?
Yeah, I was
what
just
do you
wondering.
Mean by? You mean something more like reparation, for example?
I'm sorry?
You mean more like reparation, for example?
No. I just mean, it seems like, this may help. It seems like y'all, who
they got disconnected. They got disconnected again. I will attempt to reconnect them right now. Okay, we got you back on. We can hear you. The call, Non-Mighty Wick, if you want to start over, because I don't think they heard your question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Can I be heard right now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yes.
Who pays for or covers your expenses while you're studying, NGOs and racism, and how much money do you make?
No, we make no money. And the thing is that we did other jobs next to making the film. When we started making the film, I dropped out of university for half a year, and I worked in an ice cream parlor, and next to this, we worked on the film. We didn't earn any money with it. We put money into it, the money that we earned I was working at an ice cream shop. Teemo was working at the ecological
organic food market. So we invested money in the movie. We didn't earn anything from it. However, what happened now, because we were setting up a website some years ago, and then people who were interested in the topic, some of them invited us for talk show, for workshops, and for some of these workshops we received money. Mm-hmm. But now at the moment I'm working as a freelance political educator, and it's not only about racism, it's about lots of different other topics as well. And so this is what I'm doing for a living now.
Mm-hmm. And I'm working as a political educator on world trade. So actually the movie is not our it's not where we get our money from.
And at the beginning we were thinking to get some funding for the project, but the thing is that in Germany, in order to get funding for a movie, we have to apply for the funding before you start, and we didn't think at the beginning about it, so we couldn't apply for any funding. Mm-hmm. So it's completely on a voluntary basis. because I see it as a political work as well.
But I think I feel I don't know if it was your question, the listener who asked this now, but on the subject of did you ever pay back? I think it was you also who asked it.
Yeah, the first question I was wondering, it sounded as if earlier in the broadcast, I know Teemo had mentioned that he has profited from non-white people increasing his understanding of racism, white supremacy, and being able to, function better as a racist and a white person. And I was wondering if you or him has ever compensated or paid money back to or gave some, direct assistance to the black people who are helping y'all to be, better racists.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's for example important to change the discourse in this as well. For example, Guada Quilombo, the black psychoanalysis I mentioned before, who's working here at the university, she talks about redefining the discourse on charity organizations to a discourse on reparations, and I think this is also a way that we can assist in some way, that we help changing the discourse on a discourse on reparations, or for example that we try to change the structures of world trade, for example, that creates so much injustice, and that this injustice and poverty worldwide is also racialized. I think there are many structural issues that we can assist with our, or that we are assisting with our the work that we are doing, the political education work.
Okay, thank you.
Minnie B, did you have questions?
Yes. Guten Tag again. I was wondering if, and I'm sorry that I didn't hear the first part of the program, but Germany was occupied by U.S. troops for many years, and many of those troops were black men. And I am wondering if the racism that you are aware of now is partly what effect of the offspring of those relationships have played into affecting the attitudes of white Germans.
I think this is very, very difficult to judge, and I'm sure it played a role, but I think in general the thing is that the forces who were in Germany after the Second World War, they did a whole huge re-democratization program in general. So I think if the Germans after the Second World War wouldn't have been forced to deal with their past, they wouldn't have done it, and they still, of course, haven't done it enough. But I think because it was the whole U.S. forces in the whole program was connected to a huge education program of the German people, I guess it played a role, but this is very difficult for me to judge now.
Are the pardon?
No, I understood the question in a different way. That the Black American soldiers had relationships with white German women, and then there were more black people in Germany.
Yes.
And how this was this the question?
Yes.
Actually, there are black people in Germany since 500 years, and there's a famous black German poet, Mai Ayim, who was following the history of blacks in Germany. And however, till now, people like most of the white people in Germany think that there are only black people in Germany since a few years since asylum seekers are coming to Germany since some decades. It's not only like also other non-white people coming through working contracts like Turkish and other people who are here considered non-white. But interestingly, already before after the First World War, there was a French occupation in parts of Germany, and also in France there were lots of black soldiers. And I know a little bit more about them than about the American soldiers. And they in the west of Germany, where the occupation was, there were some 10,000s of black German kids coming out of these relationships between the French soldiers and the white German women. And during the Third Reich, most of these people were actually sterilized by force or killed in the concentration camps, which very, very little knowledge is there in German society about this, for example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I understand that. And I was thinking for present day time, I know that when I was in Germany, much of the racism was directed at the Turks, the Turkish people. And I'm wondering, has it increased to include larger numbers of non-white people and present day, and why? What has been the cause of that increase in white Germans?
I didn't get the last part of the question. What has been the increase? And then I didn't understand
the question was, I know the historical background of the blacks in Germany pre World War I, II, but I'm wondering about present day time. When I was in Germany in the 80s, much of the racism was directed at the Turkish people there. And I am wondering now, in 2011, if what has been the increase, and if that it sounds as though that has expanded from the racism has expanded from just being directed at the Turkish black people to other non-black people. Why?
I would say that first of all, it looks quite interesting that lots of the behavior or the stereotypes, which was like in the construction of the white versus black, was actually taken over when Turkish migrants, for example, were coming, or also Italians or Spanish at the beginning, and were coming to Germany, so that lots of the stereotypes which were there against black people were actually taken over to these new migrants. And what is interesting is that, for example, migrants who were coming from Italy or Spain after some time, now they are, they were now seen as white. Even at the time, maybe they were not seen as white, but the Turkish are still not seen as part of the white community. And so I think you have to see, or you have to observe very much in detail. And I think racism functions sometimes on the grade level the same way, but sometimes also according to like if you look at different groups, it functions in a different way.
wanted to check the people that called on the free HD line, 7531 and 3413. Did either of you two have a question for Caroline and Teemo?
No, I don't have any questions, but I am enjoying the show, and thank you.
Sure.
Well, I had a question, but Non-Mighty Wick kind of took my question, so I really don't have one. Other than, I guess maybe I can ask this, though. To your guests, they both stated that they had different jobs when they started to do the film, and now they're working somewhere else. Now, the question would be, are you going to continue as a filmmaker? And if you continue as a filmmaker, all the information that you gathered from all the black people who assisted you in making this film, would you compensate each one of them monetarily for all the things that they have done to help you with this particular film?
We will see how much, or if we will earn at all money through the film, because we will. The idea was from the first part to give it out as educational material and only basically cover the costs of the production But if in case we will earn more money, from the very beginning we were discussing with the people we interviewed that we will reimburse for the time and for the ideas and for the knowledge they will participate in.
Mm-hmm. So you say this is for this film is for education. So colleges will be getting this film, and I guess different corporations will be getting this film, because this is where I guess we're going to now use this for diversity training or something like that. I mean, what exactly is your film trying to say? What is it going to do? How is it going to help black people? How is it going to help non-white people? How is it going to stop the system of racism, white supremacy?
I think, for example, by sending out copies of this documentary to the organization who produced the advertisement, I think it will, or there is a possibility that it will influence their policies of constructing the pictures. And if they change the pictures, this would have an effect on the streets of German towns, because then, if it hasn't the effect that we intend to have, the violent images will get less and less. This is our objective, I would say.
And I think we never had the objective to end racism with this documentary, because we are realistic. But one key point is we're raising awareness that people are both black and white who are so far not aware of the structures of like what images actually do with us, both with black people and with white people. And I speak a lot with the people about the topic, and lots of the people say, I have a bad feeling when I watch these images. I know that something is not right, but I don't have the language to talk about it, and I don't have the background and the knowledge to actually really give an analysis and discuss with other people about what is actually standing behind these images. And this is what my objective is about the documentary, is actually to give people tools to think about the topic, and to give ideas of what is standing behind. And one other motivation is, and we were talking about this, and I hope when the movie is ready, we will be able to install a little item on our website in order to send protest emails to different organizations in order to let them know that there are many people in Germany and also around the world who see what's happening here and who actually protest against reproducing white supremacist pictures to a mass population in Germany.
Raz Heru, did you have a question for Teemo and Caroline?
No, I didn't have a question. Thanks.
I wanted to. I had one last question I wanted to get in. If you all have time, do you all have time for one more question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I focus on terms. I think the system of white supremacy is primarily maintained through deception and white people using terms to create confusion and really being able to use words to maintain domination over non-white people. Words, symbols, images, and you all seem aware of that as well. At least one passage I wanted to read this and see if you all could elaborate. You all wrote, post-colonial theory focuses on power structures that are otherwise invisible and helps being seen in concepts. Terms are replaced. The underlying concepts are often only modified. Civilized becomes developed, for example. In the term underdeveloped, in quotes, inability, passivity, poverty, originality, and chaos, similar to the term uncivilized. This tool enables us to see posters of charities in a social framework and to elaborate on the connotations. I just wanted you to talk about how words can just be shifted. Same idea, but you just have a shift in terms. Refinement of racism.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I think the danger in only changing terms is that the underlying concept stays. For example, in the German language, we don't use the equivalent of race, for example, because after the Second World War and after the Nazis and their racial theories, the word race was banned from the German vocabulary, but the concepts that were behind it, they stayed. But we used different words like, okay, these people that come to Germany now from the 50s, for example, they used it for the Italian workers who came, for the Spanish workers who came, for the Turkish workers who came. They didn't say, okay, they meant actually they are racially not as superior as we Germans are, but they didn't use the word race, but the word culture. And so for other people, it was somehow like a hiding place. The language and the new word culture didn't have such a violent package, something like it doesn't seem to be so violent, but it only seems not to be so violent because the what is inside the package is the same, and this is of course the danger of only changing the pictures. And when we come back to the documentary, when we only change the pictures which are on the street and we don't change the ideologies that are behind these pictures, this is of course a problem.
One example from the images, because we were looking at the images since the last decades, And at the beginning, like in the 50s when these NGOs started, they showed a lot of naked and starving kids. And nakedness as a simple kind of is still there, but not very common anymore. But now, now you see lots of people in traditional clothes, and both nakedness and traditional clothes both show both have the concept behind that these people portrayed on the billboards are not part of European or German modern times, but they are somehow back in times. So, and this is quite interesting because lots of the NGOs we spoke to said that, listen, we actually change our imagery, but the underlying concepts actually didn't change. And this is why, for example, when we run workshops on images in development aid or in development cooperation, we never only talk about images, but we also talk about ideology, about racism, and we talk about underlying structures, and we see them very much connected. And this is why, for example, in our interview, in our film, we also interviewed one scholar called Aram C.I., who's analyzing the notion or the concept of development and how it actually changed from civilization to development, and how it's actually still meaning the same, but it's very much connected to racism at all of the steps.
Because we imagine ourselves to be the developed in the
Wow. I wanted to check. Justice, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask? If she's
Can I be heard now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How do you practice racism, white supremacy every day?
I think it also is practiced by the things that are, for example, not happening to me, by the things that I can do. For example, in Berlin, I can go home on my bicycle at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not afraid. And I think this is the thing I would do otherwise, as if I would be a black person. Or I can use the subway when I'm alone. I know many people which are living in Berlin, and they are black, and they don't use the subway, for example, at all. They only go by bicycle because they don't want to be enclosed with a lot of white people in one department at the subway, for example. This is one example I can give you.
I just want to point this out for listeners. I think the response that Carol just gave, I think that's the one way that she consciously practices racism, because the things that she listed as ways that she practices racism, that's not practice racism. Being able to go someplace late at night, that's not practice racism. That is a human right that everyone in the universe should have to be able to be someplace and not. That is not practice racism. The practice of racism is doing things that result in non-white being harmed just because they are classified as non-white. That's the practice of racism, and I think white very skilled in discussions of racism, listing my privileges, because I can get banned at match skin color and this sort of nonsense, which I can go back and read Paul's work. It doesn't really get to what are we doing to maintain, refine, and achieve the system of white supremacy? It doesn't do that at all. And I think it could be a conscious effort by white practices. So that would be, if you could think of some ways that you practice racism, meaning some ways that you directly and or indirectly harm non-white people.
One thing which comes into my mind and which happens a lot is that situations where there are white and black people together, and white people say bad things or talk or like do a racist joke, and my behavior is often enough, unfortunately, nothing. I just I'm just silent, and this is, for example, one of the not talking is also an action which and through not positioning myself, I kind of hide behind the behind my own whiteness, and because I'm not directly affected but actually I am, and I think I should more often speak out in situations that it's not only, because often then it's the black person next to me saying something, but why should always black people redirect the discourse on racism, and I think I as a white person should do it more.
Caroline, would you like to go again?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was thinking, and for example now, actually I'm not living permanently in Berlin anymore. I don't have a flat here, but now I'm here, and I'm living in a part of town that used to be very a part of town where many migrants live, and migrants from migrants from Turkey, a lot of migrants from Arabic countries, and the flats here used to be very cheap, and we started moving here. A lot of students, white students, because the area was supposed to be cool, because by the migrants who were in the area before, there was a certain culture evolved, and we wanted to be part of it somehow. But the more we started moving here, the more the rents go up, and the people who used to live here can't afford anymore to live here, for example. And this is also a widening of the quarter that we are, or that I am also a very big part of.
I just want to check in really quick. The folks that dialed in, Southwest Georgia, Texas, and Cleveland, did any of you all have a quick question to get in for Caroline and Teemo?
Oh, no, man, I'm just listening.
No, I'm just listening.
Thank you both for listening in. Other person, did you have a question, or are you just listening? I will assume they are. Justice, oh, I'm sorry. Justice, did you have any more questions? I forgot. Justice, did you have any more questions?
No.
There is one person in the chat room, and they said, what would be better images for NGOs to use to induce charitable donations?
We are often getting this question, and we decided on not answering it because this has to do with the issue we were talking before, that the images actually is only the surface of what these organizations do, and we believe that 8 organizations in general play a crucial role in maintaining white supremacy, at least how it works in Germany. And so we don't want to just change the images and let the organizations do whatever they are doing anyway, which has a lot to do with racism, both on ideological and structural level. And also, we say as white, we don't want to be another white people speaking for the black people who are portrayed in these images, but rather encourage a dialogue. For example, also not only with people who are living in Germany, but also people from Africa, Latin America, and Asia, for example, who deal in everyday life with development aid and development cooperation.
Okay. Guess Justice, she says she does have one final question. Justice, go right ahead.
What can you suggest that non-white people can do to have an effect against the system of racism, white supremacy?
Again, the question, because the quality was there. So,
what can you suggest that non-white people can do to have an effect against the system of racism, white supremacy?
I think, for example, what that now we talked about for 2.5 hours, and you said something to us to reveal some structures that are in our heads, and this is also a way to uncover white supremacy, for example. So the questions that you just asked during the whole show and the commentary that you did on on the things that we said, I think this is one part of dismantling. Can you say this? Dismantling white supremacy.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm thankful for all of the questions and the commentary of both Gus and Justice, and would like to encourage non-white people not to be shy on also asking questions which could be difficult or not very pleasant for white people to answer. So even if this is what I want to say.
Okay. Thank you. And go ahead, Gus.
The website, again, is www.whitecharity.de. It is in the description. If you're listening at TalkShoe, you can get more information about the documentary film White Charity by our guests, Teemo, Kaiser, and Caroline Philippe. Thoroughly enjoyed having you two on the program, and I feel it was very constructive. I learned a lot, and thank you all for being as honest as you were.
Thank you very much. I think we also learned a lot, and I think we will go on talking after we hang out. And yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting us to the program, and also to ask honest questions. One thing I have in mind is that we consider ourselves in a constant learning process. At the very beginning, or sometimes during the show, you were introducing us as experts, which we don't see ourselves as experts. And I think the show again showed how many things we should think about ourselves, and I want to thank you for this. And as soon as the film is ready, we will send a copy to you, and I'm very curious about the comments you will be writing on. Thanks.
Oh, for sure. I would love the opportunity to see the film, and if you all would be willing, I'd love to have you back on. Once I am able to view the film, we can go more in depth in terms of the project. So thank you for the work, and thank you for sharing some of your, I guess, Saturday evening with us. We'll definitely be in touch. Thank you again for sharing some time with us.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
All the best for your show.
Thank you both. Have a great evening.
Right.
Goodbye.
We should have this in German as well.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. I will send you an MP3 recording of this. I don't know if it could be transcribed or what have you. That would be great. It should be in German. There are victims in Germany that need to hear this.
Yeah, we might be able to put it as a download on our website. We will see.
Okay. I'll email it to you once the program is complete. It takes a little while, but within a few hours, I'll send it to you, and it'll be a complete MP3 file.
Okay. Thank you very much.
For sure.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Both of you take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Context of white supremacy, Gus T Renegade, and Justice. Really enjoy having white people on the program. I think it is always constructive. To hit the problem is white people. Always great to hear directly from them. And to hear from white people in different parts of the world. I think that is going to be great. Comparison, contrast. I would, any non-white folks who've been listening to the program for some time, go back and check out those archives. Go back and check out some of the broadcasts with C.O.W.S, Peggy McIntosh, Noel Ignatieff, Jan Nedervan Peterson. He was on the program July 2010. He's born in the Netherlands, so he has an accent, but he had a lot of great information. He talked about the importance of the Samboification of black and non-white people. Real interesting program. But just do a comparison contrast and see how many similarities there are in the way that white people talk about racism, white supremacy, white privilege. Just compare and contrast the words that racist man and racist woman use to practice racism, white supremacy. With that, we will see if we can be efficient. Justice, do you have a news report for us?
Yes, I do. This one was from Racism Daily. This one was from RacismDaily.com. It was published yesterday, May 13th of this year. The title is "Youth Gangs Attack Asian and African Immigrants in Greece." Has a little picture below it. In a spate of righteous violence, gangs of youth, some armed with bats, Thursday attacked dark-skinned immigrants in central Athens, injuring at least 25 people and causing chaos in the downtown Cato Patasia neighborhood that lasted for several hours. The Associated Press said the roving youth gangs, several hundred strong and dressed in black, clashed with riot police, and they chased Asian and African immigrants in broad daylight, clubbing and pummeling victims to the ground. The state-run Polyclinic Hospital and the Athens General Hospital reported treating some 25 persons for various injuries and retaining at least one person for overnight observation. Yesterday's extremist violence followed similar racial attacks last week when street demonstrations were held protesting the Athens government's belt-tightening measures, and where a Greek man was killed allegedly by an immigrant. Observers also noted that the attacks may be related to the recent election to the Athens City Council of the leader of what has been described as a far-right organization, the Kaiser Abgai. Police and 48 persons were arrested, but no charges were reported filed. That one, this news report was from racismdaily.com, and yep.
Wow. And that was in Greece, is that correct? The area of the world known as Greece?
Yeah, I believe so.
I thought it was Athens, Greece. Global system, ladies and gentlemen, global system of white supremacy. And the terms, too, I hope you all are paying attention to leftists and far right and all that white people and their words, very skillful. I don't think there was any mention of this is a crime of white supremacy. I don't think they use that term. They'll use anything but that. White privilege, hate crime. They got, buckets and buckets and buckets of terms. Yeah, do you have any other thoughts on that report, Justice?
No. Gus, are you there?
Yes. Can I be heard?
Okay, yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah. I have also have a second article on Racism Today, Global. I'm pulling up my webpage, and I found this just by having the BBC widget on my dashboard. Just, a little item to help me keep up with news reports. This was on BBC.com. I also like this because it helps me not be lazy, so I can keep up with different websites, different news sites on racism, white supremacy. This is on the BBC website. This was posted on Thursday, May 12th. The title of the report is UEFA charges C.O.W.S over racism claims. This is a soccer league. UEFA has launched a disciplinary case against Barcelona's C.O.W.S over alleged racism in the Champions League semifinal with Real Madrid. Real posted a video on their website before the second leg showing Busquets allegedly calling fullback Marcelo Mono, which means monkey, in the first leg. You got a suspected racist calling a black person a monkey during a soccer match. The case will be heard on Sunday with the decision due the next day. The incident was one of several in a heated tie between the Spanish rivals, which Barca won 3-1 on aggregate. Both clubs lodged complaints to the European football's governing body after an ill-tempered first leg at the Bernabeu, which was won 2-0 by Barcelona. Madrid were unhappy with the behavior of the opposing players, and the red card shown to midfielder Pepe, one of 3 dismissals during the game, along with Barca reserve goalkeeper Jose Pinto and Real coach Jose Mourinho. Barca protested over Mourinho's post-match comments, alluding to favors from UEFA in big Champions League games and questioning the Catalan club's relationship with the European governing body. The report goes on to just talk about how these folks are bickering with one another over their conduct and whether they did something incorrect or not, and if they should be punished. At any rate, there is audio attached to this where the coach of the players that have been accused, and the player, I believe, his name is Sergio Busquets. This is the gentleman that's being accused of calling the non-white male a monkey during the match. His coach, he had some audio where he was sticking up for his player and defending his character. And I just thought that was really interesting, so I wanted to play that audio clip. You're about to hear that now. This is the coach sticking up for his indicted player.
What can I say that I know these kind of players? I know very, very much, all of them. And without doubt, I can say that they are an example of professionalism, honesty, they love to make a sport. They love the values to show the sport. They know that we play with the people, with the rest of the world, and it's just that's all what can I say. So don't have. Of course, more of them during the game can make mistakes, but as a human being, as a sporting game, as a humans, as a sports, they are an example. They are an example as a players of Barcelona. They are an example as a players of the national team of Spain. As an example as and when playing French in Brazil and whatever. So there are very, very, very good examples for the rest of the sports. We are not proud about when our players make wrong actions, but I know these kind of players, and they are honest. They are to try to play football, to fight with good spirit, to show to the opponent we are here. But and we make something good or something wrong, an allegation of the opponent make an allegation against us, the referee has to decide, no one else.
Context of white supremacy. I just thought that really stood out to me because I know I have done incorrect things. I certainly have been accused of doing incorrect things often, and it's rare that I will have immediate and public defense of my character when I have done something incorrect or have been accused of doing something incorrect. And I have seen that repeatedly. If there's an allegation of racism, it seems like that seems like a part of white people's duty. Someone has to step up as a character witness. If another white person is accused of being a racist, there has got to be some white person is obligated to step forward and say, now, wait a minute. I don't think, Joe Bob is a racist. Now, maybe he did lynch 8 niggers. Maybe. But, I know him. I know his mom. He's just not a racist. That is obligatory. That's got to be at least one white person has got to do that. I've noticed that. And it seems to be worldwide because this, happened with the European Soccer League. So I thought that was interesting. And we got 2 news reports on our job today. Justice, did you have any thoughts on that report?
No.
I will check in with the folks who dialed in on the phone line to see if anybody has any comments. The person who was listening in who said that they are in the area of the world known as China. Yeah, I would definitely, I think it would be constructive to hear about racism, white supremacy in that area of the world. I do have the ability to call China landlines for free. Skype was a great investment. So, yeah, we can make that happen. If you would like to share what you have observed, I think that would be constructive. I hear so many people, they cite China as being an area that white people don't dominate. I hear that all the time. It would be great to hear, a live report from someone in that area, particularly if that someone is informed about white supremacy. That would be great. I don't know your email address, sir. You can shoot me an email, untiljustice@gmail.com. I'll give it again, untiljustice@gmail.com. There you go. I will hit the phone lines. I see Vicus. He was very helpful this week. He sent a lot of constructive information. Thank you again, Vicus. Reckless 2.0. Check out their radio broadcast. Again, Reckless 2.0. I can't say where they're at because, trifling, terroristic, tacky, trashy. But, yeah, Reckless 2.0, big time. Support their efforts. I will open up the lines for folks if you all have any feedback you would like to share. We have 12 minutes left. We will be back on, time is flying. I think we'll be back on Monday. I think that's the next broadcast will be Monday. We'll have some of the students that have been protesting out in Arizona over the removal of the ethnic studies programs. I saw a lot of news reports where white people were upset about this, and it got a lot of attention. So that'll be this Monday, should be Monday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific. We should be back. Support the program if you think it's constructive. The wish list is at Amazon.com under Gus T Renegade, and invest. The links in the description if you think it's constructive. And also promote. That's a big way that you can invest, putting links up, put it on Twitter, Facebook, putting the program out so that more non-white people can hear it. If you think it's constructive, that is a huge help. Again, I will open the phone lines up. If you all have comments you would like to get in, we have about 11 minutes left. Minnie B, Non-Mighty Wick, Rise, Heru, California. I'm opening the lines up if you all have something to say. If you know you don't have anything to say, you can just let me know and I can mute your line. If you called in, your lines are open. Again, if you don't have anything to say, you can just let me know and I will mute your line. 3HD people, I got you as well.
Hi, I'm the caller from California, and I was trying to let everyone else speak, but no one said anything. So I was listening. I kind of caught up to the program, and it's interesting to know that we really are oppressed all over the world, and the people that aren't black, the white people, they the way you said they word things and how they make it seem as if they'll use a word to make it to confuse you, and they'll make it seem as if things are one way, and in actuality, it's another way. And it really weirds me out how they, regardless of where they are on the planet, they all know what to say to keep you going in circles, to keep you wondering, It just kind of, I'm listening to the people what I could get out of because of language barrier, whatever their accent is. But what I got out of it just seemed really how all over the world they're all prepared for the racist questions. Oh, no, it's not like this. Or they loop and hoop around the meat of it. And that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
I'm very interested to hear people's thoughts on their assertion that black people are more informed about racism. Matter of fact, we can take the last minutes of the program. What do people think about that? Their assertion that black people are more informed about racism than white people. And did you think these two folks, Caroline and Teemo, did you think they sounded like very informed, very refined racists? And I'll end there.
The logic doesn't hold up to say that black people, the victims of white supremacy, the targets of white supremacy, are more informed than the practitioners, than the white people who practice racism. If black people was more informed than the white people who practice racism, we wouldn't be in a system of white supremacy. I mean, that's the logic of that. And so any white person saying that sort of thing, you just be real suspicious. Like you said, these white people travel all over. They do a lot of traveling, degrees, well-read, and things of that nature. Most black people don't get access to that sort of thing, especially don't get compensated for it. And so that's very illogical to even assert that black people are the victims of white supremacy. The prisoners are more informed than the wardens.
I believe that white people are very aware that they're practicing racism. They know their roots, heritage. They know how they get down. The children even know. I remember being 5, and when Star Wars came out, little girl had to be around the same age as me. She said, she's going to be Princess Leia, and I can be Chewbacca. What? They know what's going on. They're teach that. They're not, oh my God, racism. They know what time it is, and they keep us all confused and lovey-huggy, so we will stay out of the loop. They know what time it is. I don't care, 8 to 80. Sorry, I'll push mute.
This is Minnie B. And I find their claims of innocence to just be so tired and unbelievable. What? There's racism? Really? Oh, my. I'm just enough already. Very disingenuous. I was wondering what Justice thought.
I think that I don't think that non-white people are more informed than the white people, and also I think they were practicing racism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would encourage listeners, the portion of the program where they were attempting to explain what black people do to demonstrate that they are informed about racism. And what he said was that black people shared information and allowed him to profit
from their knowledge of racism, and he is an admitted racist, to me, that says a lot. I mean, I don't have enough double whammies. If that's true, if the quote-unquote informed black people, the black people that really know what's up about racism, if what they do is allow racists to profit from their knowledge of racism, we have a lot of behaviors that need to be corrected.
I agree, Gus. And the first one is, don't be giving it away. I mean, be compensated. If someone wants to spend time talking to you about racism, be compensated. First. I thought that was an excellent question about, I think it was Nam Mightywick who asked about if they were going to be giving any kind of paying the people who contributed information to their video. What was their answer to that?
I believe they said no. I mean, what was the short of it,
There's something wrong with that. That's just all wrong.
It's got to be expected. You have white people that they make whole careers off getting a camera and a microphone and going to go talk to the victims and see how troublesome their life is. I mean, these white people, Timothy Wise, $6,000 a pop. I mean, it's just people whole careers off this, enough to feed generations type of thing. And so it can't be expected that they're gonna. I think on Off and Running, I doubt if when we did a show on the program Off and Running, I don't even think the non-white people in that series were compensated. It's standard. But yeah, I definitely agree. You got a white person wanting to get information from you, and they plan on profiting. Try to get some compensation for that up front.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 40 seconds left. Last thing I'll say, you can cut a lot of this down. Again, when I speak to white people, I have a ratio in my head. I'm not supposed to just be talking and making sentences, statements, showing off what I think I know. I'm supposed to be asking them questions. They have a lot of information about a wealth of things. I'm not supposed to be, giving them everything that I know. They're supposed to be giving me constructive information. So I think we could cut down on a lot of that by not, just going out and telling our whole life story. When we talk to a white person, ask that white person question. Have that white person telling you information, and that will shut a lot of this down because we definitely do not want, that is racist profiting from your knowledge of racism as a victim. Man, we'll be back on Monday. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the program.
Thanks, Gus.